guys, how you doing? Matt from MacTechs here. Today we're going to go over a 2014 13-inch MacBook Pro hard drive upgrade. We're going to go through all the steps and what you need to do. Some of these steps are really important. You don't want to go out of order in any of these steps, and this will help you avoid some complications along the way. Just going through our hardware today. Obviously we have the Apollo S3 512, which we're going to install in this guy today. We have the 128 Samsung Apple Gumstick drive. We have the Apollo 2.5 SATA drive, a fledgling M.2 drive with the Gumstick adapter. We have a Gumstick adapter that you can buy on eBay or Amazon. And then we have just another Apollo S3. I just pulled the sticker off just to kind of give you a look of what's underneath. Obviously, they're not really hiding much here. We can see what controller they're using and then what NAND that they have installed. Here we have the OWC Gumstick to USB adapter. This is going to come in handy in a couple situations. It is expensive for this, but this is actually a really useful tool. And then what we have here is just a 16 gig flash drive. What we have pre-installed on here is macOS Big Sur, I think 11.2 on this drive. You don't need everything for these, but if you're a shop, you should have all these tools. What you want to do is make sure you have the information backed up. You can do that one of two ways. You can have an extra proprietary Apple drive, or you can do a time machine backup to a 2.5 inch drive or any kind of external. In this case, we're going to use the Apollo. It doesn't have to be the Apollo. It can be any 2.5 inch drive. I use this StarTech SATA to USB. This is great. I have a bunch of these. These come in handy all the time. Basically, you do the time machine backup to this to preserve the customer's information. If you have an extra drive and you have a Gumstick adapter to USB, in this case, this is the OWC one, that's designed specifically for Apple's drives. This comes in handy as well, and you save a lot of time with the backup. It's really up to you how you want to do this. I would recommend the adapter, the OWC adapter, only because you never have to wipe that original drive. So you prevent any kind of data loss there, especially if your time machine backup isn't successful, which that can happen. So what we'll do first here, we are going to remove the original drive from the MacBook Pro, install our extra drive here, and then we're going to boot up to in recovery, macOS Big Sur. We'll do a fresh install and then get that set up and make sure that we have any kind of supplemental updates installed as well. So we're gonna go through that process now. Shut down the machine, take the bottom off. I've already skipped a couple steps here. Disconnect the battery, please do this. Battery's disconnected. Remove the original drive. In this case, we're gonna put it right into the adapter so we can use Migration Assistant later to move that data over to the Apollo. Now, we're gonna install this drive here. This is our extra drive, right? It's kind of beat up, but what we want to do here is we want to make sure that the logic board firmware is upgraded through this because it is a passive update. The passive update will not work with third-party drives. All right. Make sure we're good. There's a bunch of tutorials on this. I'll add a description at the bottom where to go. Apple actually has a whole page describing how exactly to do this. It's pretty easy to make a recovery drive like this. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an option boot. It's going to let us pick what drive we want to boot to. Great. Okay, so option boot allows us to pick what we're going to boot up from. This doesn't work with the newer Macs because they do have a boot protection on them. I can make another video about that at some point. What we're going to do here is install macOS Big Sur. So remember, we have the original proprietary drive in here to 128. We want to just make sure that the firmware is updated on the logic board. All right, so we're into recovery. Now, the first step here would be to clear off this drive. Now, if this is the customer's drive, again, you really want to make sure that you backed up the information. Time machine backups do not always work. They can be corrupted if the drive's bad. There's so many different things that can go wrong here. I really dislike doing only a time machine backup. I really like to use the original drive in an adapter. Using Migration Assistant with this is, I mean, it's key. So what we'll do first is we're gonna wipe the drive, continue. I want to hit view up here. It's going to give me a drop down of the root level of the drive. We're going to do erase. I name all of my drives Mac SSD. And in this case, we're going to use the file format of APFS. You can use macOS Extended. I believe Big Sur will tell you if you need to change that during the actual install in the next couple of steps here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit erase. This erases the drive. Goodbye, all that information. Now, if you didn't do a backup here, you're screwed. Okay, done. All right, next step here would be to quit this. We're gonna go up to Utilities and Terminal. Now, you can see here that we're not connected to Wi-Fi. We're not connected to any of these networks, and you don't want to connect. So what you're going to do here in this terminal window is we're going to change the system time. What this is going to do, it's going to make sure that depending on when you created this backup drive, that it's not already expired. So we're going to type in date. I use 10/10/10/2019, and our date and time has changed to October 10th, 2019. And what we'll do from there is we quit. And now we can install macOS Big Sur. So this is going to go through. And this is going to take a little bit of time. Continue. Agree. Agree. Now at this point, it will tell you here if you can't use the APF file system, if the firmware on the logic board hasn't been upgraded to acknowledge that file system. In this case, we have. We're going to continue. We're going to keep going here. Great. All right. So we're going to wait for this to go through. And then we're going to set it up. Okay. So what I have here is I have an identical MacBook Pro 2014 13-inch. I've already installed the Apollo S3 into this. While the other one's installing, I just want to show and go through a couple steps here as well. So what I did is I booted up from macOS Big Sur, and we're here at the recovery partition. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Disk Utility, continue, and we're going to take a look here. Now some people say that they can't see the Apollo drive here, and it just really depends on what operating system you're installing. Some of the older operating systems, you won't see anything here until you go ahead and hit Show All Devices. Now, some people were critical and said that Apollo should go ahead and have the operating system pre-installed on it. You can't do that for a number of reasons. First and foremost, they would get sued by Apple. You can't sell Apple's operating system because it is free. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to hit the Apollo, we're going to hit erase, and we're going to call this, like I said, Mac SSD, and erase. Done. And we'll quit this. And that same trick we used before, we're not connected to Wi-Fi. We're going to go to Utilities, Terminal, and we're going to put in the date to change the system time. Date 10/10/10/2019. Good. So that's good. Install Big Sur. Continue. Continue. Okay. Okay, so we got this MacBook Pro 2014 13-inch, fully updated with the supplemental updates. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install the Apollo SSD 512. What we're going to do is we're going to get this installed, and we're going to go through a couple steps here. This is our drive. We'll give this a minute to boot up. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go through and set this up. Continue. And remember, we have the Apollo SSD 512 installed in this machine. Okay, we're going to go on our network here. All right, cool. So migration assistant. And this is where we want to be. So a couple of ways. Like I said before, if we had done the time machine backup to the 2.5-inch SATA drive, we could do the time machine backup restore right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to restore from the original drive that was in this machine. Now we know for a fact that all the information on this drive is good. There's no liquid damage or anything to this machine that could have compromised this drive. So it does look good. So we'll get that installed now. Power. And it's flashing, so we know that it's communicating. Great. So we see our original drive here. We'll continue. I'm going to go through a couple steps here just to get this information here. So whatever. There's really nothing on this drive, so it's going to be pretty quick. Then we do the transfer, and then we're set. And there we go. Great, migration is complete. And should get us right into macOS. Great, we can see here we have our 512. Right? If you have any questions or comments, drop them below.